We thank you so much as we are here today to talk to people about fantasy and about whatever is on their minds and in their hearts. And we ourselves open to the truth of our lives, the truth that is you, the love that we have, the compassion we have for others and ourselves. And we ask now to remember all the people that are flooded out in Texas and suffering all over the world, that our prayers and our good intentions may go out to them as well. We thank you so much, dear God, for all of this. We say this prayer saying we know nothing, for it is the you through us and through all things that know it all. And we ask with all our hearts that we open to this, that we may sincerely be of service in these 90 minutes. And so it is. Amen. So, ladies and gentlemen, hello. We are on Facebook Live and we are on Blog Talk Radio right now. My dear friend, and a woman that I've known now for 15 years.
Yes, at least, yeah.
At least 15 years, is Christina McCarthy. Christina McCarthy is one of my finest healers. We have an advanced class that have been together for 12 or 13 years, and Christina has really distinguished herself. I often ask her to join me for the show because she has so much to add and so much to say, and we work off each other very well.
Yes.
So as we're talking about all this, we wanted to have her in today and hopefully dialogue with you. Our phone number again is 347-850-1647, and we are going to another caller. We're going to go to our first caller, I think, first. This is a 401 exchange. To whom am I speaking, please?
Yes, hi, Martha. My name is Fernanda.
What is it? What is your name?
Fernanda.
Could you spell that for me?
Fernanda.
Fernanda.
Certainly.
Got it.
Yes.
Hello, Fernanda. Very nice to talk to you. Where are you from? Where's 401?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. One of my favorite states. Darling, what can we do to help you today? I'm Martha, and this is Christina. What would you like to talk about?
Good morning to Christina, and as I stated, good morning to you, Martha. I was just wondering, are you going to be doing any readings today or no?
Here's where I'm coming from. I'm always delighted to tune in for you. That's no problem at all. I am not, but thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to explain myself, and then I'll ask any questions that you'd like me to answer, okay? And Christina is equally as intuitive as I am. What we are known for in this organization, Martha Burgess Novak, is we teach you how to open your gifts and to heal and to go to consciousness and, if you go far enough, to enlightenment. We have our business programs, we have our program for individuals, we get over issues, and go on and live wonderful, hopefully live wonderful lives together, the people that come here and us. So we don't hang our shingle out as psychics. We are very strong intuitives. We'll be delighted to tune into you for anything you want. That is not a problem. That is often part of what we do, but it certainly isn't all of what we do. So thank you for the opportunity, Fernanda, to mention that on the air. I don't think I've ever said that to people before, but I am delighted. Hello, Lisa. Lisa's just written in from Florida. Darling, what could we help you with today, Fernanda?
It was more of a question. Currently, my husband and I have been separated for approximately 11 months.
Uh-huh.
And at one time, we had really no communication. But lately, he's been trying, the past 2 weeks, he's starting to seem to reaching out more towards communication. Nothing about reconciliation or anything, even though that's something I've always hoped for.
Uh-huh.
So I was just wondering what this is, him reaching out that he's doing, this little reaching out that he's doing and explaining himself a little bit more, if this is a step towards that. So much wanted reconciliation.
Okay. My first question is, and this is a question I truly want you to just ask. I have no ulterior motives for asking this. I'm curious. Why do you want reconciliation?
We were together for 16 years. I truly feel he's my soulmate. He is a wonderful person, or at least he was 11 months ago, and then something happened in his head and with this other woman, and he became this person that I didn't recognize. He's starting to come around, and I starting to see that person again that I once knew. But I truly believe that he really is a wonderful, wonderful person, even though he's put me through a lot these past 11 months. I truly believe it was things that maybe behind his own, that he couldn't help himself.
Okay. So there was another woman involved, is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As far as I know, there was until about a week or so ago. About a week, I've heard that things they're not the same between them. I've heard two stories. I've heard that they broke up. I've heard that they're still together, but not doing well. I don't know which one is true. If either one of them is true.
You know, I'm all for. Let me tell you where I'm coming from to begin with, and then I'll tell you what I feel like is being said to me. And Christina, pipe in there whenever you feel it. I'm all for families staying together. Okay, are you divorced?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, you're just separated. All right. I'm all for families staying together. But I'm not for bad families staying together when people don't fit. What Spirit has told me as we are listening to you is that this isn't going to work unless both of you all grow up. And neither one of you are grown up. This man feels like he has to have somebody. If that's good enough for you, then you all will get back together. I don't think this is that kind of reconciliation. So it doesn't feel like that to me. I think both of you all need to do some work on yourselves, quite frankly. You need to work on why you really want someone. I had to ask myself that because I was perfectly capable of being on my own. I enjoyed being on my own. I was a great partner to me. And you have to ask why you want someone in your life. Is it to, in some way, complete you? Is it in some way to help you financially? Is it in some way? None of those are good enough reasons to have a partner. A good enough reason to have a partner is that you've learned something new that you did not know when he was in your life before. And by the way, the same thing goes for him. That you know a deeper level of your own lovingness. And he does too. And you all choose to give it to each other. And expand that with each other. But it is about you and what your knowledge is. It feels to me very strongly that you have not discovered those deeper levels, and you should, because you're going to get the same thing over and over again if you do not. It is not going to be what you want it to be. And what are you picking up, Christina?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen couples go through this before where one has an affair and then they get back together, and it can be stronger than ever. But
absolutely.
The couples that are stronger than ever are the ones that do the work and they look at themselves honestly in a real way, and they look at their partner in a real way and the relationship, and they're willing to do the work to, ask, well, what was going on with me, what was going on with my partner that created this scenario, that made this a possibility in our relationship. And when you look at those things in a real way instead of a fanciful, romanticized way or an idealized way, which are things we're going to talk about today, then the relationship can survive and be incredibly strong.
That's right. And I don't happen to believe that an affair, one affair, is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But it is a deal breaker. You'll never be able to trust him again if he doesn't work on himself and you don't work on yourself.
Exactly.
You've got to get past the child's mind and get past the way the relationship was, because you want to go back to the way the relationship was in your kind of fantasy world about this. And darling, it's not going to work, Fernanda. You have to keep going, you know. And I see you trying to figure him out instead of going on and working on yourself.
Exactly.
And one must do that. Now, I know that the reason you're calling a program like this is to reach out. And I appreciate that. And there is everything that would make a great relationship is in you, but not in the energy in which this relationship was.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, if it was in this space of what really should have been, there was no affair could have gotten.
Yeah, the door wouldn't have been opened for
That's
that
right.
as a possibility.
Now, the reason many times people have affairs is they don't want to look deeper in themselves.
Yeah.
And so the affair is a distraction. So if he comes back to you, darling, in that energy, this isn't going to work. It just isn't. So I think this is a really important time to face reality, to work on yourself, to see whether he's going to do it.
Let me just, if you allow me to just cut in.
Absolutely.
Just so you know, I have worked on myself. And actually, I have made a lot of changes over the past 11 months. I not just worked on myself spiritually, physically. I actually went to school. I've done a lot of changes within my life in the past 11 months. So I certainly have worked on myself.
It isn't that we are, Fernanda, we are not disqualifying the work that you feel you have worked on yourself. When we say work on yourself, this is completely different. What we're talking about is that there are certain aspects of relationship that even allowed somebody to have an affair on you. There are certain aspects of the relationship that you chose this man who would betray you. Those things are in your energy. So when we talk about working on yourself, it is what aspects were in you energetically, what was there implanted before you were 18 months old energetically that allowed these things to happen in your life. That's what we're talking about. That's what, in spite of all the things you have done, this internal searching for those things, this internal, and darling, the truth is one does not find these things on one's own because they're buried very, very deeply. They just are. And that's what we're not criticizing you about. Don't think we are in one way saying that you have done anything wrong. I am delighted that you are going on a search and you're trying to move on. That's wonderful. What we're saying is there's some things you haven't looked at. You wanted us to tune in and pick things up. We're picking up the same thing here with you, and we really are trying to help and say, look at these things. Go to some sort of energy worker or psychologist and really root out why this happened. It lies in your past when you were a tiny, tiny young girl. That's where these energies took root. You see?
Okay.
That's all. That's all we're saying.
And we're absolutely here to help you. I mean, I don't think it's any accident that you called in on the day that we're talking about fantasy. I think this is a good show for you to hear based on the energy we're picking up and some things that you said. I think this show can be very helpful for you reframing the way you see yourself and this relationship and your partner.
You're a strong woman, Fernanda. We hear it. We see it.
Absolutely.
We know it. And you and I would venture to say, Christina, have all had the same feelings and insecurities and dependence and desire for partners and fantasies going on in our lives. But at one point, Spirit really brings us face to face with those and gives us a great opportunity to be something more, to be more of our potential, to learn more about what love really is. And if you do on these deeper levels, you might find out that he is not an ideal match for you, that he was, as I often say, Mr. Right for right now, but not necessarily right this minute. Certainly 16 years ago, good for you, and many of those years. But there's a reason this happened, and you haven't found it yet. Oh, you've got some theories on the surface, but there is something deeper that's going on here. And it's energetic, and we've got to find out what those things are in you, and if he is open to it, to find out those things in him. Now, you asked me, so don't ask if you don't want to know.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like he's going to do that, which can be a problem for you in wanting him. You can always love him. See, I don't believe that you spend 16 years with someone and suddenly stop loving them.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I believe that love continues if we will allow it to, and not allow it to change into something else. And it can deepen and grow, and we can appreciate people just as they are. But that doesn't mean that we will still want to be married to them, you see? So let's see how this plays out with you searching for those levels of the experience we're talking about, knowing yourself, knowing what you're doing energetically, what some of your deepest ideas about yourself are beyond what you consciously tell yourself. And let's see where we go from there, and if you still want this guy, and if he's ever going to move on himself, because it doesn't feel like he is, does it to you?
No, it doesn't to me either. I mean, even before she mentioned the affair, the impression and what I picked up was this is someone who is looking for external distractions to keep from going deeper. He may be lonely at this moment, and he's looking for something outside of himself to distract from that loneliness and whatever he's feeling internally. Instead of going internally and going, why am I feeling this? What do I need to do to change this? How can I shift this? What do I need to work on?
And how can I make sure this will never happen again?
Exactly.
You know, because I would hate for this to happen again to you or to any other person. But right now, he's in the energy where he's got an escape route, and he could do it again. So if he doesn't learn something from this, if he doesn't open himself, if you don't open yourself to what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate, to who you really are, and find that match, we'll end up in the same situation. We do not want to do that. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, darling. Thank you so much for calling. I hope we've helped. Do you have any other questions?
No, that was it.
All right, dear. Thank you so much. Take care now.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right, we're going to another exchange right now, which is 917. Hang on. That didn't catch. All right, we are at a 917 exchange. To whom am I speaking, please?
Hi, speaking with Nina.
Nina?
Yeah.
Great. Where are you calling from, Nina? Where is 917?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Well, hello, Nina. My name is Martha, and I've got Christina sitting by my side. What can we help you with? What is on your mind today?
What is on my mind? Well, I also was involved in a relationship, but I really want to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been something that it's back and forth constantly, but this person isn't available, isn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not really nice either.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks he's trying to help me, but he says he's trying to help me, but the way that he's talking is not very kind or empathetic, not very cold, and I just need to let him go and move on. And I need to know. I've always had a very hard time letting someone go, especially men. And I've done different things like change my phone number and things like that, but In this case, I really don't know what to do, because every time he says he doesn't want to be with me, like 2 months later, we're back together doing things and stuff.
Yes, but darling, that's your doing. That's not his. You let him in.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
let's talk about how we can go about making you stronger, certainly. But I was picking up some things as you were talking too, and one is, this isn't just about him. You never finish off anything energetically. Nothing's ever done with you. From the time you were a little girl, nothing is ever over. You leave things open-ended. Do you know what I'm saying? It's part of your being a little girl still, instead of an active adult that says, I like this, I don't like this, I'm going to have this, I'm not going to have this, and what's acceptable and what's not. You never make those declarations for your own life. You leave these things open-ended because you are afraid, and it always feels like you need to have an escape route. But the truth is, you are an adult now with an adult mind. You're perfectly beautiful. You're smart. You can end things and not be in any jeopardy at all. What ending things does, it helps you bring in what you really want. So this isn't a problem with just this guy. This is just a problem that is open in you. You never finish anything. You never say, I'm done, it's over, and move on, right? Now, the other thing that I want to say to you is I've been very lucky in my time to see generations of people. I work with many families and many family generations. One I did not work with, which was really interesting, was it was a grandmother. I was the daughter's age of this woman. And she had a family. She had a brother and his family, and she had a family, and they had children. All right. This grandmother had a habit. Her habit was of something she called constructive criticism. It was damning and damaging, and she ruined 4 generations of people. 4. Her own and everything after her that I have been privy to so far. That energy of constructive criticism, being critical and really mean-spirited under the guise of positivity, only says to the person doing it, I'm going to keep doing it. That's why he keeps doing it. You understand? He is giving himself an excuse that, by God, he's helping. And he's actually a mean-spirited, selfish man. What is drawing you in feels to me like a hook that you don't know that you are entirely lovable. You don't seem to know that. So when somebody comes along, appropriate or inappropriate, like this guy, who says they love you or gives you the smallest crumb of kindness and love, you fall for that. You go in that direction. You fall, my dear. This is no criticism.
Yeah.
I promise it's not even constructive criticism. These are just what I hear and I am relaying to you. You follow the promise of love instead of knowing what real love is. He's only waving promises in front of you, and it's a manipulation. All promises usually are. And we need for you to really know what love is in you and know that you are a loving person and that you are full of that kind of spiritual, marvelous, beautiful love that can translate into a relationship and bring somebody in that matches that. I would not hesitate to say bye to him because he is not treating you well. The good thing about him, there is a good thing about him, is he's being completely honest to you. He ain't lying to you. He ain't going to be there. He's not in love with you. He's not in love with anybody but himself. You understand?
Yes.
You do need to have it over. What are you picking up, darling?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the way to have it over is, again, to do that internal work, to look at what in you is making this okay and acceptable, and why. You said things like you change your phone number. That's an external way to end something. You need to work on the internal things that are really driving this, the energy that's really driving this.
And Nina, this has something to do, this vulnerability that you have has something to do with your father. Now, many people who are listening to this go, well, that doesn't take a brain scientist to know that. Yeah. But energetically, this is very complicated for you.
Yes.
And the reason that you are not saying goodbye to this person and other men is because you do not want to close some energy off that has to do with the father, even if he was not appropriate. So I need for you to really do some work. You need to do some energy work. Is different, and it's very psychological, and you're welcome to either go the psychology route or the minister route or the energetic route. We're energetic healers, and there are a lot of them out there. But what you must do is find someone that really challenges these old patterns and these old ways of thinking, because you're a perfectly marvelous person. You deserve to be loved with real love. But the person that advocates for that and that stands up for that and says, this isn't good enough. I'm sorry, you are not a match to me, and you pull me down one more time, and let me tell you, I'll never speak to you again as long as I live, isn't there in you. It is buried deeply in you. But she's not up in front and center. You're so afraid of not being loved in life. And darling, you're lovable. We can hear it just talking to you on the phone.
And I want to say kudos to you, because you realize there's a pattern in your life. You realize the pattern of, I am not good at letting go of men and saying no to men. You saw that pattern. Now the next step is to go, why do I have this pattern? Where did that start? Let me work on that with someone who can really, like Martha said, challenge me and push me and be objective about it.
You all right, sweetheart?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm not in love with him either, but it's not even a matter of it being in love, or it's just a matter of, how do I freaking let this shit go?
The reason it's so hard to let go is because it's not about him. It's not about this present moment. It's about the old stuff. There's a really strong old connection.
Fernanda, this is about your dad. This is not about him.
That's why it's so hard, because the child is going, don't let this go, don't let this go, because this represents whatever from
survival.
Your past.
Yeah, it really has a lot to do with your survival.
Yeah. And as adults, we think we can replay these childhood patterns and get a different outcome because that's what we want, but it doesn't end differently. It's always going to end the same.
It's always going to end the same, darling. You've got to understand.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, but you're writing a script, but the end is already written, so every time you go into the script again, you get the same ending. You see?
So do you know what we're talking about? You don't have to say it on
air. Every time. There's no difference to it,
Yeah.
Well,
and it's true. It's the inner child. It's not my adult self that wants to be with someone like that. I'm just grateful that I don't even live with him. I'm just glad that I have my own place. I could never be with this man in one house.
Yeah. Can I ask you something, darling? Are you in any kind of danger from this guy? Physical danger?
He's innocent. He's like a little.
He's just emotionally mature, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't give good advice. He thinks he's helpful, and he just doesn't. In the end, what he basically does. The worst thing he does is basically reject me. Tells me he doesn't want to be with me. He doesn't want to be with anyone. He
darling,
just doesn't want to be social.
You're the one that's not listening to him. You're not listening to him.
Yeah, he's telling you who he is and what he's capable of, and you're accepting. You're like painting over that.
Well, that's
how loving is that? You're not very loving to this guy, and you should be loving to everybody. You're not loving to him if you're not accepting that and saying, I understand, I hear you. It's over. And again, it's not over because you don't want to have this over with your dad, and these are not the same people. Energetically, you've got to break this link. And to do that, the only way we know to do it is to do some work on yourself energetically, to break this link. Now, we'll try to do some work on you right now to break that link, but you've got to see somebody because you don't want to do it.
And this stuff is deep and it's layered. It's not something that can be done in 5 minutes with us sitting here. It's going to take a lot of work on your end and a lot of emotional honesty on your end.
That's exactly right. And darling, I know you want to do it. That's the reason you called.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do it too. The ego child's mind does not want to do anything but what you're doing because it hopes against hope that one day the clouds will part and everybody will be rosy and nice. Okay?
Yes.
The higher self of you is the one that called us and says, this ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
What do I do? And you've got to strengthen that higher self of yours energetically. And how you do that is to get the child's mind issues that I'm not enough and I'm not lovable and it's nobody out there for me and I'm this age and who knows who's going to ever come down the pike for me. Those kinds of lies that you are telling yourself have all the energy. Instead of the highest self that says, I'm going to live my life, I'm going to make it a good one, and one day I'm going to attract the person that I have become in love and have a happy life. Now let this guy go. It's easy for us to say that. It's easy for us to say that. You're going to have some support in doing this.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all been there. I know I've been through this process, and I had people like Martha around me to help me through it, and you need to find the same for you.
Yes, I am going to do that.
Good.
I have someone that I can work with, and it's not going to be easy because I'll probably be confronted with my own. Oh man, this is hard. This is very hard to do. But I've done it before, and then he will text me. He will email me.
Yes,
he knows when I'm gone.
Sweetheart, you have broken up before, but you have never had a strong sense of self in place so you could say no the next time he calls. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we're not talking about breaking up with him.
Yeah, because if it's not him, it's just going to be the next person.
That's
if
it.
you keep in this energy. So it's about breaking this energy once and for all.
You got it?
Yes.
I want you to be with somebody that is not your dad.
Yeah, and you can't get there until you stop this egoic child pattern. You got to really work on it.
You all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, you can do this.
Yes, you can.
You're talking to two women who did it.
We did it. You can do it.
Okay? Darling, if you find you need us, look at our website, Martha Burgess Novak.net, and you will find Christina as one of the healers there and several other people. It doesn't matter that you're in New Jersey at all because we work remotely all over the world. Once we have your energy, and we have been tuning into it, we can find you when your intention is to heal. And we work on the phone with people, and you will be just fine. And you are very special, but it's, Nina, you have never been an advocate for yourself, and nobody's going to do it but you. So one has to learn in one's spiritual growth that you're worth doing it for. You're worth saying no to the bad things and yes to the good things for. You're the one who's worth being motivated. You're the one who's worth everything. You've got to do this and then attract someone just like that. You see? Who'll do it for themselves.
Yes. And these things happen in our life to wake us up to that fact.
Yeah.
It's not that the universe hates us and bad things are happening to us for no apparent reason. They're happening to wake us up and go, I need to do this work. I need to figure out how to have a strong sense of self and how to love myself.
And the good thing is that I'm learning a little bit more about him each time and realizing how much I do not want and cannot be with someone like this. I can't.
That's wonderful. However, you are saying what you don't want instead of what you do want. And that's where your energy goes, and you're going to find yourself alone. Now, here's what you do want. You want to learn to be the greatest partner to yourself that you have ever had. And then you want to open the door to someone coming in that will be that great a partner. I know when I was dating before my husband came along, what would happen is I'd go out on a date with somebody, I'd come home, I'd stand with my back against the front door, so glad to be home and with myself. And I knew not to have a second date with that guy because he didn't make me happier than I could be making myself. You don't make yourself happy, love. You're just looking for other people. Now, you've got to learn to make yourself really happy, or you have no benchmark to attract a better human being. Don't you understand?
The focus has to be on you, not him.
Not him.
And forgive me for saying this, but people that call in, they expect honesty from us. And when we put the focus on someone else, that's just an excuse not to look at ourselves and work on ourselves. So catch yourself when you're doing that. When you're making it about him, pull that back and go, okay, what am I avoiding in me? What do I need to see here about me? What do I need to work on?
Yeah, this is all about you, darling.
Yeah, it's always going to be about you.
That doesn't mean anything is your fault.
Yes, I'm not saying that.
No, that's not what we're saying.
I'm saying... Yeah.
That's saying that the way out is by you knowing yourself and transcending some of these old patterns that you had with your dad. That's the way out.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. Okay, sweetheart? We just got amen from Florida. That's good. All right, sweetheart. Well, Nina,
I like that a lot. Thank you.
What, darling?
I said I like that a lot. Like when I'm thinking of him and how angry I'm at him for whatever reason, I can bring it back to myself. You know, I created this whole mess. And
Yay!
I
Now we're taking responsibility. That's the way to
up,
heal.
Girl. You gotta wake up here.
This is fabulous, Nina, because only when you, and that's the hardest thing. Sometimes I work with people for a couple of years where they realize what you just realized.
That was
because
a big one.
This is huge. Because when you realize that, I created this.
Yes.
You can create something else, but only until you realize that.
Exactly.
So good for you.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. So congratulations, girlfriend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
darling. Let us know how you are, okay?
Yes, I will. God, I hope I can just not contact this person for a year and just move on with myself and my life and a new chapter, a new book, and
marvelous?
I will work on it.
You take it moment by moment. Don't even think about the year. You take it moment by moment, and you spend each moment focusing on you and your health and your healing and what you can do to build yourself up. And before you know it, you'll be moved through it.
What's been buried deeply is your sense of self. And so your self-value goes out of the window when you don't have a sense of self, because it's the sense of self that gives you the value. And you know, you go, wait a minute, I am valuable. I am worth doing things for. I can entertain myself. I can be by myself and have a perfectly marvelous life. Now, I would like to have a partner. Then you open it up. But without that sense of self, you get someone who is, and he is, controlling. And you do not want that in your life. You got that already. How does it feel?
Yeah, he is controlling and mean and self-centered, and he is, when I tell him something that is bothering me, he'll just be so mean with his advice, and he's just saying, I'm being truthful, and he doesn't even know the whole situation.
No, darling, constructive criticism, truth in the egoic world has done more damage to people than anything I know. So, get out from him.
Yeah,
he will never realize anything else. Don't stand there and argue with him. Just go, and go out and do your own thing and break up with him, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You will. It's real important, because you get suckered because of the father connection into trying to tell him your feelings and what he's doing. He doesn't want to know. That's the kind of guy you got. So,
doesn't care.
No, throw him away. Find somebody who cares.
garbage. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're too good. You go on now, and you learn your
Yes, I
lessons
am
well,
too
and
good.
don't do
Way
this
too
again.
good.
Okay, we
He's
like
a
you,
jealous
sweetie.
person too. He's jealous.
Yeah,
He's very jealous.
but Nina, why wouldn't he be? He is the shallowest man you know. It's all about him, and he has no kindness and sensibility. He doesn't know what love is. You got someone in the shallow end of the pool, and you wonder why he's not a scuba diver. So it's not going to work.
Yeah. He's not capable of what you're looking for.
He's not capable of it. So why even try?
No.
Why even
God,
years
God
ago?
help me break this bond.
You need to work on yourself to do it.
Yeah, it's
That's
gotta be
what we're
about
telling
you.
you. You have to do some
Yes,
work.
I am. I will.
You have to go. You
Right
can call
now.
us or call somebody that you know and start doing some energy work and be confronted by what you're doing, because if you're confronted enough, you go, oh my God, I'm that obvious. I don't want to do that again. And look at the result I get every time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
Got it. Good luck.
Take care, darling. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're going to go with our last 44 minutes and 33 seconds.
We're going to cram all the information we can about fantasy into 40 minutes.
And guys, if you all do have a question, we're delighted to answer anything. We're at 347-850-1647 after a very unauspicious beginning with dishes crashing and God
lots of
knows
pans
dog barking and everything else. We are on a roll now. So if you all feel like calling us, please do, and we'll talk. Now, we're also going to talk about what our ideas about fantasy are. I think it's really interesting that we had the calls that we did.
Yeah.
Because in terms of fantasy, I find fantasy... people either have fantasy in every walk of their life, and or they'll have it particularly around the area of relationships or around work or something. It usually goes across the board, because if you have a predilection for it, you'll use it anywhere you need it and feel threatened. But I think it's real important that we talk about this in all its glory. Now, the first thing I want to say to you, actually this is the second thing, is I'm not talking about dreams. It's wonderful to have a dream, you know. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream, not I have a fantasy.
Yes.
You can't do anything with a fantasy. Fantasy is its own reward. You cannot create from fantasy. In the real world, you will only create more fantasy from fantasy. And we're going to show you why you don't want fantasy, except in the arena of creativity. The first thing I want to say is that you develop fantasy in a very natural manner. Children don't have a lot of choices generally because they're children. When something hurts them, they have to have some coping mechanisms. Unless they have a really perceptive parent who will talk about things with them, and by the way, that's kind of a fantasy too, because I've known some very conscious, loving people, and their kids go in a different direction with all that until they find their way back in some way. So I laugh, and I also say that I think that animals are very good in a home, dogs and cats, because when you feel misunderstood and abandoned and you're angry and everything else, at least they listen to you.
Yeah.
But one of the very, very common ways that children cope is through fantasy. They learn it, by the way, from one of their parents, and then they really find their way to it. Now, I want to put on the table there are two kinds of fantasies. I should say two kinds of expressions of fantasies. One is very overt. You know, you see in literature and in books and in movies, the father, for example, that always has the latest money-making scheme.
Yeah.
Right? And you go, oh, well, boy, there's fantasy full out, full tilt. Yeah, but there's also a fantasy that we all use which is keeping fantasies close to the chest and internal. They're something that we use. We don't necessarily share with others. Those are almost they're just about as damaging, I should say.
Yeah, they're so subtle, and sometimes we even keep it a secret from ourselves that that's a fantasy. We convince ourselves that we're visualizing or we're dreaming or we're planning, but if we're not following up that idea with action, then it's fantasy.
Yeah, we're going to have some tips at the end about this, so you can spot fantasy when it's in your life. I got caught not long ago in mine, and I lecture on this all the time, and there it was. Talk about something that you go, ooh, okay, I guess I'm not as far as I thought I was. Let's talk about why you fantasize, because it feels good. It hits the opiate centers in your brain. It's like heroin. Gives you a temporary high, right? Most of the time. And I say it does most of the time because the truth is there are fantasies that upset us too. They generally follow the fantasies that delight us because in our delight they are not real. Our body knows we're not moving on anything and making it so. And that will cause a big reaction when you say how conscious you are. And number two, many times you are spiraling into negativities that are out and out lies, like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I don't have what it takes, I'm always wrong, blah, 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 blah. The absolutes you hear in these statements are fantasies, and very, very damaging, because here's the truth. For example, I'm not smart enough. You're not smart enough sometimes in certain instances, in certain circumstances, because who is?
Yeah.
Right?
So that's a good cue to know you're in fantasy when you start using the language of absolutes.
Yeah. I always do this. I never do this. That's usually a good key that you're there.
Should we give them some examples of fantasy? So, real world fantasy, because they may be confusing what we mean by the word.
Why don't you? Yeah, you start.
Okay.
And then I'll jump in there.
Well, let's see. I know one from my own life recently. My sister had one of those milestone birthdays, and I wanted to make her feel very special and very loved. And so I was putting together a photo book of her life. This is your life. These are all the things, the people that you love, the things that happen to you. And I spent weeks and weeks putting this together. And I gave it to her, and the way it played out was different from what I had imagined in my mind. And in that moment I realized I had a fantasy, because when I gave it to her, we were rushing to go somewhere else, and she opened it very quickly and kind of went, oh, and then all these people were looking at her, and I think she felt emotional and she didn't want to really open it and go through it. But in my mind I had this whole beautiful fantasy as sisters. We were going to sit down and we're going to thumb through this book and go through the memories of our life, and it was going to be so beautiful and bonding, and wow, isn't she going to just love me and be, oh my gosh, you're just the best sister ever if we're doing this. And afterwards I realized I felt disappointed, and I'm like, why do I feel disappointed? I made it. It was beautiful. She liked it. What's the problem here? The problem was I had a fantasy about how it would play out and what it would mean.
And you're reminding me of my own fantasy that I had. I did some redecorating the other day, and spent. First of all, I should say to you that I am addicted. I love fixer-upper shows, right? All those things on HGTV and all that. Oh man, I read them. I love magazines that tell me about what to do with houses, and I love looking at all that and getting inspiration. One of my certainly my expressions of my creativity, right?
Yeah.
I love fixing up things. I love color. If you can see the red room that we're in right now. Well, I had gone to an awful lot of trouble designing these rooms, fixing them up. And I didn't tell my husband. I was very frugal, really I was. But I had bought for months and did a really, really good job on putting things together and put it all together. Now, when I put it all together, I didn't realize I was in fantasy. I thought my husband was going to, I was waiting for the big reveal,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that what they call it?
Pull
the big
the curtain
reveal.
back and-
Pull the curtain back. My husband was going to go, oh my God! Like those
And then he's
people
gonna
on Fixer
cry,
Upper.
and it's gonna be
He was going to
beautiful.
cry and say, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm married to this wonderful woman. Oh, she's so talented and wonderful. Right, didn't happen. Didn't happen. As a matter of fact, he was ill. He was crotchety. I was exhausted. And I got really mad and felt really unappreciated and accused him of all sorts of terrible things. He spoiled it for me. Well, I spoiled it for myself because let